Yolkalta. Adventure level 7. Orc. Nulavan. The city guards finished his inspection and waved us through to Kokena. Well, calling it an inspection is a bit of an overstatement. They simply glanced at our cargo and under the carts. Somehow, this made them certain we weren't assassins, smugglers, or whoever else they've been ordered to detain. It occurred to me that this type of security is infrequent for Kokena, and likely a response to the conflict with the Night Kingdom. I see. The reason that the guards didn't detain us or perform a more thorough inspection is likely because we aren't drow. I wonder how long the line would have been if we had been at war with Bolasir, or the Empire of Calcutta. One of the blatantly newer guards had done a double take when he saw Nick, but thankfully a veteran guard was on duty and was able to put two and two together. Nick's presence could have been another reason we weren't more thoroughly inspected. There's a decent chance they've been told of him, and what he's doing for High Chief Ulamak. There's not a guard alive who would risk angering the High Chief.
Almost there, Imlaw said cheerily.
Awesome, Nick sighed in relief. I could use a shower, the inn has me spoiled.
Not sure the inn is to blame for that, Nash chuckled.
Almira and I smiled, remaining silent. Neither of us had been overly social since our emotionally charged conversation days prior. The discussion had ended on a happy note, and it was seen that we are afraid of souring things. The both of us are notoriously terrible at tiptoeing around emotions that we don't quite understand. There could be another reason for our awkward silences, though. I meant every word that I had said during the conversation, of course, but I conveniently left out how hurt I felt that she hadn't confided in me. Over her years of tutelage, we had become each other's confidants. I told her of my deepest, darkest secrets, and in exchange she had told me many secrets that were much more embarrassing and compromising than the fact that she was a fair folk reborn as a vampire. So why did she feel the need to hide her true origin from me? Unfortunately, I could not think of any reasons that were particularly flattering for either of us. No matter. I have endeavoured to forgive the matter. It is difficult to cope with these feelings, but as with any other challenge, I'll manage. The cart continued through the city while Nash and Nick debated what we should do after seeing Ulamak.
We shouldn't get back on the road right away, Nash said sternly. Need at least a week to do all the relevant research.
Research? What research? Nick demanded. All we need is a day or two to replenish our supplies and find transportation. Then we go. It's not as if we're going on an expedition into the wastes or anything.
Oh? And you know what to expect when we get to Calcutta, do you? Then tell me, are there tolls or security concerns that we need to bear in mind? Will every city or village there allow us to carry our weapons openly, or will we need to account for being unable to do so? How's the weather? If there's a chill, will we need cold weather gear, or will we be able to get some on the way? And furthermore, which fucking city are we travelling to?
Nash is right, I interjected. There is plenty of research to be done on our destination and the routes. But we didn't have to wait a week to go to Bolasir. That's because we had a set destination in mind, and familiarity with the locale. I lived in Bolasir for a while, remember? He fell silent as Nash and I shared a knowing look. His urgency was easily understood, as was his inexperience with this particular lifestyle. It doesn't matter how welcome this world makes him feel. It isn't home, and it doesn't have his love in it. My thoughts wandered to what I would do to have Rira back in my life. We hadn't even got as far as Nick and Cass, yet if there was a chance to bring her back to life, I'd stop at almost nothing. I know that Nash feels the same about Nima. Nick sighed as the cart pulled into the roadway behind Imlaw's shop. We dragged our road-weary bodies from the cart, grabbing our belongings as we went. Imlaw approached us and tossed Nash a sack of coins.
There we are, safe and sound, the gnome grinned. I couldn't have found better guards anywhere else. If you ever need more work, let me know. It won't be me driving the carts, though.
Thanks, Nash said. Hope you enjoy being off the road from now on.
Oh, I will,
Imlaw laughed, then turned to face Nick.
Words cannot express my gratitude, Nick. Thank you, from the bottom of my heart. I'm able to come home to my wife and children. If it weren't for you, I'd have...
Imlaw trailed off, trying to maintain his composure, as the emotions that he'd been suppressing swelled within him. Nick gently placed his hand on the gnome's shoulder. "It's the least I can do for a friend," Nick said. Nash and I shared another knowing glance. While it seemed heartfelt, what Nick had said sounded somewhat rehearsed, almost as if he had repeatedly practiced saying it in a mirror. Imlaw didn't notice this, and grabbed Nick's hand, shaking it. "Of course," he said, wiping his eyes with his other hand. "I'll consider you my friend for the rest of my life. If you ever need anything, let me know how I can help." "Of course. Goodbye, Imlaw." Nick smiled. "Stay safe."
"You too, friend. Farewell, everyone."
"Bye," I waved. "Try not to worry your wife anymore." "See you around," Nash said. Almira simply waved as Imlaw entered his home. The four of us took our leave and began walking toward Kakena's capital building. As we travelled, we heard snippets of several interesting conversations.
"The dwarves eat like swarmfish," Enel said to his friend. "It's a good thing we had a decent haul this season, or we'd be facing a famine."
"No, the bastards brought their own smiths. They have no need of my services," an orcish smith explained to a customer.
"Have you seen how shiny their weapons are? I want a sword like that,"
a small child exclaimed to her friends as we passed. "I guess the Empire of Calcutta sent reinforcements," Nash said. "That's gotta be awkward."
"Yeah," Nick laughed. "Should we see if we can travel with them?"
"It would likely be marching," I added. "I'd rather take a car if it's all the same to you."
"I'm sure there's someone with a car that's going to want to travel along with the army. It would be a lot safer for them," Nick said. "Let's face the music with High Chief Ulamak and then ask around."
"Face the music?" I asked.
"Yeah, sorry. It's a phrase that's meant to accept the unfavorable consequences of your actions."
"How?" Nash laughed. "Is music that bad where you're from?"
"No," Nick chuckled. "It's one of those phrases that nobody knows where it comes from. Some people think it comes from plays where an orchestra is set up in front of a stage, so the actors have to face the music and overcome their stage fright. I've also heard that it could be referring to a time when military units had drummers and horns, so you need to face the music to attack your enemy."
"Opposite ends of the civilization spectrum," I said. "Interesting."
The conversation died down as the Capitol building came into view. One of the guards noticed us approaching and pointed a thumb at the door, informing us of our ability to pass him unhindered. We nodded our thanks at him and did so, and were immediately greeted by Raizun. "We've been expecting you," he said. "Good work on delivering the message to Regent Oakmore."
"Thanks," Nash said. So, any word on how the High Chief is taking the news about the High Dragon?"
"No," Raizun answered with a mischievous grin. "I suppose you'll have to ask him yourself. He'll be ready for you soon." "Great," Nick whispered. Raizun escorted us to a waiting area, and we each took a seat. Nash and Nick seemed to be a lot more nervous than Almira and I. Nash was leaning forward in his chair, arms crossed and leg bobbing up and down. Nick was also leaned forward, staring at his hands that were clasped in front of him. "They looked like a couple of miscreants who were just caught," I whispered to Almira. Her giggle brought a smile to my face. Despite my slightly injured pride, I found myself still enjoying her company. I suppose in the end, that's what it boiled down to. I was proud of being her confidant and proud of my ability to cope with unexpected information. Finding out that she had been hiding such a big secret from me shattered the pride that I felt as her confidant, which in turn hurt the pride I take in coping with unexpected information. I looked around the waiting area and chuckled at how inappropriate a time it was to be having this revelation. "Why are they so nervous?" Almira asked softly. "They must be under the impression that Ulamak's going to be angry that King Asimraf has awakened." "Yes, I know. I mean, what cause would Ulamak have to be angered?"
"Well, Asimraf could end up being a threat to the unified chiefdoms if he decides not to honour agreements that he personally didn't sign or approve of. Plus, it's no secret that Regent Oakmore and Ulamak are close friends. So, Ulamak could also be upset that his friend has been demoted."
"We see." Almira's demeanour changed slightly, causing me to chuckle again. Nervousness will change nothing in situations that are outside of one's control. What happens will happen, regardless of whether or not one worries about it. I was about to tell her as much when the door opened and Ray Zun entered. "They are ready for you," he said. Nash and Nick practically leapt from their seats, but I took a second to adjust my robes before rising. Then I realised something, and looked at Ray Zun quizzically. "They?" I asked.